What's up world, Sebi here, and welcome back to my birdhouse. So today I thought we were going to be going over our Facebook topic, which we did on Tuesday, and that is keeping our birds' housing or cages clean. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Please leave a like and a subscribe if you do. Before we move on with the rest of today's video, I just want to put a little disclaimer in here. I am in no way a vet or an avian specialist. The advice and information I give out in my videos is simply my own experiences and knowledge that I have gained over the years from keeping birds. If at any point you feel you need professional help or advice, please consult your avian vet. So today I thought I would discuss a little bit about what we discussed on Tuesday on our Facebook page, where we just discussed a little bit about keeping our birds clean and hygiene practices regarding their cages. Now, I'll be showing you something today that I don't think I would regularly ever show to the public, but as an owner, and I'm sure many of you have been through the same situation, this happens, and I don't feel that this should be hidden or shoved under the rug just because, I am human. And yeah, so the last 2 weeks, as you guys are well aware, I have been super busy in my own personal life. I really just haven't had much time to myself, and as a result, the bird cages have really gotten out of hand. So this is about a week and a half of filth, and I just really haven't had time to clean cages. I know it's no excuse. The bird room in general is looking fairly clean. I mean, we've cleaned the floors and stuff, but I just haven't had time to actually address the actual issue, which is the cages. So today I thought I'll just go through a bit about how I keep my cages clean, maybe some good hygiene practices, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. So the first thing I'm going to do quickly, which I will do a bit off camera because it gets chaotic trying to hold the camera and record, is I'm going to take each of the birds out of the condo, which at the moment is, here's Sydney and at the top is Haley. I'm going to remove them from the condo, and then I'll try and place my camera down, maybe like here on the floor or something. I don't know how that's going to work, to try and record how I clean this cage. Sydney is busy molting currently, so as you can see there is a lot of Sydney feathers in this cage. I do like to collect my birds' feathers, so I'll probably spend a minute or two just picking up some of these feathers, putting them in a box. Oh, she's a bit angry. She's developed quite the cheeky cheek since she laid her eggs. And yeah, so I'm gonna just do that off camera, and then I'll try and record my cleaning process. Cool, so now that the paper's all removed, all I'm going to do is I'm going to go around with this brush, give this cage a really good sweeping out. What I would generally do after that is I'll take my vacuum cleaner and I'll actually vacuum clean the whole inside of this cage. Unfortunately, my vacuum cleaner packed up last week and I haven't currently gone to buy a new one, but as soon as I get a new one, I'll definitely come back to the cages and give them a good vacuum. And that's just because birds tend to make like this powdery dust from their feathers, which is essentially their feather casings, and it can be quite an irritant to one's like lungs and stuff, especially if you're a bit sensitive. And yeah, so I'm gonna go and do that. I don't think I'll be able to film it, I will try, and yeah, check you guys just now. Okay, cool. So once both cages have been swept out and the newspaper and everything has been removed, I have to do the condo at the same time. I've left in the collection tray for now, which I will always clean last because I take it outside to clean. What I've done is I have my bucket here, my cleaning bucket, and it's just got soap and water in it. So you can I preferably use a dishwasher or a detergent when I'm cleaning my cages. So in my country I'm using Sunlight liquid. I know there's Dawn liquid overseas. Not too sure about other countries. You do get an actual disinfectant that you can use for birds and stuff. It is quite expensive. I believe Sure Hatch sells it. I'm not too familiar on the name now, I can't recall off the top of my head, but it was about 200 Rand for a 1 litre bottle. A very strong disinfectant, and it's actually normally used on an industrial scale. So for, us home users, a bit of dishwashing liquid is going to go a long way. So this is just a full bucket, and I've just put in not too much. Like I've made it quite soapy because I put my tap on the, I don't know what you want to call it, the shower setting, so that it goes all frothy. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a damp sponge like this, and I'm just going to wipe down anywhere on the cage, like over here where a bit of the poop has gotten stuck to the wood, or on the floors, wherever there might be poop. Then I'm going to rinse out my soapy water bucket for just a clean water bucket, and I'll come back and just wipe everything down a second time. I'm going to pretty much do this everywhere, so it's going to be the sticks that are going to be wiped, it's going to be the back pole, the floor, the doors, everything is going to be wiped down. I don't do this wipe down every single week. I'll do it about once a month, where I give the entire cage a proper wipe down, and that's just because, again, for the dust and the dirt and grimy situations and all that. So yeah, if you are a home bird keeper and you're keeping your birds in your house, I do recommend that you do sweep out your cages, vacuum clean them for all that dust, and then give them a good wipe down. And then yeah, if you can, I will show you a bit later, like with Vanilla's cage, where you can literally take the entire cage outside and give it a good wash with soap and water and let it dry out, and then you're good to go. So I'm gonna get going with this. I'm not gonna be filming this, it's just too much of a hassle to hold the phone whilst trying to film, and I'll get back to you guys once I've given the cage a full-on wipe down. Awesome, so now that the cages have all been wiped down and cleaned a bit, what I'm going to do is I'm going to close them up and leave them for about half an hour just to dry off. This wood is sealed, so the wood doesn't like swell up or anything when it gets wet. But yeah, I will leave it now to dry out. That'll give me time to take the drawer out, take it outside and clean it. And whilst we're waiting for this to dry, I'm going to show you guys how I'll give a scrub down to Vanilla and Bernie's cages. So that's my other two bird, Bernie and Vanilla's cages. I also did Salt's little travel cage over there. And yeah, they're all clean and everything's good to go. I'll leave them outside to dry, and once they're all dry, they can come back inside. New newspaper, new straw, all of that. And yeah, let's move on back inside. Cool, so now that we're all back inside from washing everything outside, all I'm going to do is I'm going to be putting down some new newspaper. I'm going to put newspaper down on the inside of the cages, and then I have only a little bit of ote left, so everyone's just going to get a handful this time. But I do have some pine needles, I'll just have to get them out. And yeah, just going to get the cages all neatly done. So whilst I'm placing down all the newspaper here, I thought I'll just discuss oh, here comes Sydney. I thought I'll just discuss a bit of a discussion that I had with a fellow keeper. And basically I was asked, why am I using newspaper as a bedding, as it's not as absorbent and it tends to, when they poop it tends to go through. And why do I put down straw? Because of the same reason. Well, this is ote, which is, I guess, a type of straw. And why do I put down pine needles? Again, for the same reason. They say no, but they're not absorbent. And we had quite a long, lengthy discussion. And as far as I'm aware, we didn't quite come to an agreement or a conclusion on that discussion. And I think now would be a good time just to talk about it. So let's start. Why do I use newspaper as a bedding? Simply, it's convenient. Now, I know it's not the most ideal bedding because yes, it isn't as absorbent as, say, I don't know, using an old bath towel, for instance, or puppy pad liners. I'm just using it because it's convenient. I get my newspaper from my council. I live in a complex and with this newspaper, sometimes people don't collect their newspaper, and I pretty much will take 2 or 3 more newspapers than necessary so that I can use for my birds. Sydney has become so defensive over her cage since she laid eggs. She is not keen. So that's the newspaper argument. It's just convenient for me. I do know there's better alternatives, and yes, I do recommend, if you can afford it, use the puppy pad liners. Oh, here comes Haley. If you can afford it, sure, go buy some new towels for yourself and plonk down your old towels, which you can just, chuck into the washing machine and wash once a week. That's great. And yeah, I do recommend those things. I know that there is a fellow fancier who I follow on Facebook who really likes using those artificial turf mats, and that's great. I mean, go for it. But for me, this is just convenient. This is what I've been using for years. I've never had an issue, and yes, sometimes it will then just require me to change the cages more frequently. Second, why am I using hay or grass as a bedding liner? I use it also again for convenience. I own horses, so I will buy these bales in bulk, or what I'll do is I'll go to the local pet shop and just buy one of the smaller bales if I'm not buying in bulk that month, and yeah, it's great. The birds love it. I often will see them carrying it around, foraging through it. This particular one that I currently have is called oats hay. It is basically what oats comes from, and as you can see over here, some of them actually do still have seed on them, which is really great because the pigeons will actually peck at this and eat it if they wish. Sydney is really not keen on me using her as an example today. And then lastly, why am I using pine needles? Pine needles is probably one of the coolest nesting materials you can use for your pigeons. They really love putting this in their nest bowls, and I know many fanciers that will go and gather this stuff out in the wild, in bulk, and then bring it back and line all their cages with it. So like I said, I don't have much this time around, so we're just going to be putting a little bit in each cage, and that'll keep the birds busy for a while. I think Sydney is officially fed up of me being in her cage and using her as an example, as you can rightfully see, and that's fine. This is her space and she has a right to defend it from me. And yeah, so those are just some questions that I had from a fellow fancier, and I just thought I'd address them. One last thing is, I know we also had quite a discussion recently with a fancier that was using paper pulp as a bedding. I think I'll put up an image over here somewhere of what paper pulp looks like. I personally do not recommend this. We had a massive argument about it, and the reason why is because I actually did at one point work in a paper factory, so I could get pulp from the factory and I could use it. You can also buy it at pet stores and stuff. I know they like to sell it for hamster bedding or for bedding for rabbits and stuff. Again, personally, I won't ever use this again, because what happened is my birds tend to mess quite a bit when they eat, and all the food kind of falls to the bottom of the cage, and they will still peck at that and pick it up, and unfortunately one of my birds did ingest quite a bit of this pulp, and it actually made her get sauerkraut, and I had to take her to the vet to have it surgically removed. So I won't recommend it. Now, I'm not saying don't use any paper whatsoever, because again, paper pulp is very different from a refined paper product such as newspaper or printing paper or anything. I do know of a fellow fancier who works in a very corporate industry, and they have a lot of printing paper, shredded printing paper, and they will actually give this to their birds during nesting season as for their nests. Again, for them, they've never had problems with the birds eating this paper or anything, so I guess it is safe. I personally won't use it just for in case, but I've never in all my, 18 years now of keeping pigeons, have I ever had a bird ingest newspaper. I do own parrots, and they tend to chew the newspaper, but even with them I haven't had issues, but this is more of a pigeon related video, so I don't think we'll be going into that. So yeah, that is basically all the cleaning I'm going to be doing today. I don't think it's really necessary for me to show you this exact same process with every single cage, but I will be going through every single cage now, lining the cage at the bottom of with some newspaper, fighting off an angry Sydney who's defending her home, and when I'm done doing all of that, I'll be giving them some straw, and I have a little bit of extra pine needles that I can give to everyone. Food and water bowls will also be washed and then replaced. I hope you guys found this week's video a little bit informational. A little few tips and tricks that I hopefully shared here that you can use with your own birds. Next week, hopefully, if I get down to the farm, I can show you the process of how I would go about cleaning my outdoor aviaries, which is a much bigger, more lengthy process, and it does require a little bit more, how would I say it, back work. I don't know what you want to call it. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I can see Sydney is thoroughly over it. And yeah, I'm going to leave it here. Don't forget to like and subscribe for some more tips. Please, follow us on our Facebook page. I'm active there every single day. You're welcome to always ask me questions. And yeah, have a great day, everyone. Sydney, say goodbye to the people. Sydney, say goodbye to everyone.